Hello everybody, it's Ernie again, and I'm coming to you with the 10 things that every landlord should avoid when they're filing their eviction petition. Let's get started. We appreciate all of you who support this channel and continually watch our videos and benefit from the things we have to say. If you haven't done it, subscribe. If you like this specific video, hit the like button, please. If this is your first time here, or if you've been here a lot, leave us a comment. I want to know what you're thinking about this topic or other topics that I haven't covered yet. Let me know. So today we're talking all about everything that a landlord should consider before he or she files for an eviction. And today we're specifically going to talk about the 10 things you can avoid, 10 mistakes that, get everybody, you can avoid them. Let's start with number 1. So the number 1 thing you should do before you file your eviction is send a notice to vacate that adequately addresses all of the defaults. Are they late with their rent? Do they have an unauthorized occupant? Have they destroyed some of the property? All these should be listed very conspicuously in your notice to vacate. You don't have to write a novel, but you should list them. If you have provisions in your lease that are specifically violated, list those in your notice to vacate. It helps the court to know that your client had adequate notice of each of the defaults you plan to raise in your eviction petition. Number 2. Did you keep a copy of your notice to vacate? The fact that you still have the Word document where you printed it from your computer may not be good enough for the court. And while you can always testify that you did deliver a notice to vacate and that it looks something like the one you're producing to the court, you may run into trouble. And so always keep a copy. In fact, keep the original copy and only deliver a photocopy to your tenants, whether you do it by regular or certified mail or both, or whether you personally deliver it or you attach it to the inside of the main entry door. We don't talk about the other one. Whether you use any of these methods, keep the original. Only ever send a copy to your tenant. Number 3. If you've never filed in a court before, it's easy to get this one wrong, but don't file in the wrong court. In some counties, there are precincts and then places within the precinct. So if you are in a county that has a precinct with 2 different courts in the same precinct, you can actually choose between them. You can't get that wrong. But if you file in a precinct where your property is not located, yeah, that judge can't hear your case. So it'll either be rejected by the courts or you'll get a notice that your case has just been summarily dismissed because it's not filed in the right place. Save yourself time and money and a headache and know before you file where you're supposed to file. Number 4, filing too soon. If you give a 30-day notice but run to the courthouse and file on day 28, it doesn't matter that you waited most of the time. You have to wait all of the time that's required in your own notice. If you give a 3-day notice, also know how to count to 3. I know that sounds strange, but remember that the date that you delivered doesn't count. That's day 0. Then you wait 3 full days, and on day 4, you can file. Don't do it before. And so depending on how many days in your notice, don't jump the gun. You're better off giving a few extra days than trying to hit it on the very first day you think you're eligible for your eviction petition. I've seen too many landlords get this one wrong. Now, number 5 harkens back to number 1. If your eviction is based on the same violations that you mentioned in your notice to vacate, make sure the petition also mentions them. Don't mention 5 violations in your notice to vacate that are still present and then only say non-payment of rent in your eviction petition. List them all in the notice to vacate, list them all, if there's still violations that are present, list them all in your eviction petition. So technically, if multiple people sign your written lease, you have to sue all of them in order to get a writ of possession. The rule is very clear. If only one person is sued, but 3 people are on the hook, it's just not fair for that one person that the other 2 don't get a judgment against them. And so the rules require that everyone who signed the lease, who is still present on the premises at the time of the filing, gets sued. If you have a situation where 2 people sign, but one person says, notice to vacate, I'm out of here, then it would be okay for you not to sue them. But if everyone is still on the premises at the time that you file, you need to mention every person, every tenant who signed the lease. If they're on the hook for rent, they got to be on the hook for an eviction petition. This one breaks my heart. So sometimes landlords are convinced that, well, all I want is my property back. Just give me my property and I'll be happy. And then it isn't until later that they think, why did I waive my right to collect unpaid rent? And so don't do it. Don't waive any of your rights. If you're entitled to unpaid rent and there are other violations that are going to win the day anyway, put the rent in there too. Don't ever waive rent. Don't ever say, well, I could, but I won't. Especially when it comes to unpaid rent. You have no idea just how long a tenant is going to drag out the process, and you may get appealed. If there's no requirement in your original petition for a tenant to pay rent, when there could have been, on appeal, there may be no requirement for a tenant to pay any amount of money into the court's registry while the case moves up to a different court on appeal. I've seen it happen way too many times. If you can ask for rent, do it every single time. Do not waive your right to collect a judgment for unpaid rent. Number 8 is similar to it. Sometimes the landlord miscalculates the amount of rent that's actually owed. For example, this is the big one. The landlord will say, well, I'm entitled to late fees for months 1, 2, 3, and 4, but technically they only fail to pay rent in months 5, 6, 7, and 8. Well, if your lease has an application of funds clause, then there are creative ways for you to have applied prior payments for rent to late fees. And if you don't know how to do this, you need some help, because if you're accepting money and you have an application of funds clause that allows you to apply it first to late fees or unpaid deposits or other charges that are in the lease, but you're not applying them there first, remember, you can only request unpaid rent in an eviction. So if you're using a payment toward rent first, you're essentially waiving these other fees. If you have an application of funds clause, look for it in your lease. The next time you get a payment, cure all of the late fees that are owed, all of the unpaid deposits, all of the pet charges. If you can claim it under any one of these bases first, do that. Anything that's left, apply it to rent. And if you say, well, but then only half a rent payment's left. Well, then only half a rent payment's left, and you can sue to collect that other half. Remember, just because the check or the money order says rent only, exclamation point, that doesn't control, the lease controls how that payment is applied. So apply first to non-rent issues so that anything left over having to do with rent you can claim from the court in an eviction. So this one's a sticky one. You send a notice to vacate, you file an eviction, and then the tenant comes to you crying and says, please, please, please take my money, I want to stay. And you say, okay. And you take the money, and then you go to the courthouse anyway and ask the court for an eviction. Now, you know, being a good person, you reduce the amount of money that you're asking for, but there's something not great about taking money under the false pretext that you were going to dismiss your eviction. This is why writing is always important. And if you accept cash and you're not giving a receipt and explaining specifically that there's still a balance owed, you might find yourself in trouble. Additionally, if you accept money after you filed, your tenant is likely to raise that issue to the judge, and the judge may not be very excited to hear it. So be conscious of what you do with money you accept after you filed an eviction. Does it make sense to keep going? Or does it make more sense to say, no, you hold on to those funds, let's see what the court says about this? That's a decision up to you, and it may make sense for you to take it at that point. However, be prepared to be perfectly honest with the court when you're presenting your case if you decide to move forward. So here's the last one. The last thing you should avoid before filing an eviction. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. Sometimes landlords get super eager to get their new tenant into their rent house that they actually sign a contract before the eviction is final. Remember, an eviction isn't final until the tenant is gone. It doesn't even matter that you have a judgment, because a judgment could be appealed. It doesn't matter that you have properly filed and you've got so much evidence, you're gonna nail this guy. Because again, stuff goes wrong. Your evidence may be faulty and you may not actually win. And so if you're signing a lease with a prospective tenant before you have ushered a prior tenant out, you're simply asking for trouble, specifically if you're in the middle of an eviction proceeding and you have no idea what that defendant is up to. So don't sign new contracts. You could end up in a situation where you owe damages to that prospective tenant and then still have to contend with getting no money from your current tenant. Well, landlords, I hope this was helpful for you. It's never good news to hear all the possible things that could go wrong, except that when you know it couldn't go wrong, you prepare for it. And hopefully next time when you file your eviction, you're considering these 10 things and you're doing your best to avoid each of them, because each of them can derail an otherwise good lawsuit for eviction. If you have a question, as always, you can contact me. My information is right here. But until next time, happy leasing. If you enjoyed this video, we invite you to like and subscribe. Follow our links to even more great content. We're always adding to this collection. If you have a video topic you'd like to see, comment below.